Primetime presidential speeches typically are rare, and until last hour, we didn't know much about what the president has in store for Thursday night, but he gave us a preview.
It's really big news. It's really, really big news. And our country has to shape up. But that's what we're going to be talking about Thursday is it doesn't get bigger, because without free and fair elections, you don't have a country. We'll be discussing other things too, but it's going to be a very big announcement. Yeah.
We're joined now by Jonathan Swan. He's a White House reporter for the New York Times, also the co-author of the bestseller Regime Change: Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. Jonathan, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. What are you hearing about why the president wants to dedicate a primetime speech to this issue of election security?
Well, I should say I haven't seen a draft of the speech, and I make a practice of not trying to forecast Donald Trump's speeches. But he has been obsessed with relitigating the 2020 election, and he's been pushing his team to try to come up with evidence that the 2020 election was stolen. This was a big part of Tulsi Gabbard's efforts when she was Director of National Intelligence. Bill Pulte, who's currently there, is involved, and others are as well. So, look, I haven't seen the intelligence or whatever he claims to have, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see them try to build or try to make a case that there was foreign interference in 2020, and for Trump to try to use that as for him to make the case that the election was stolen. Of course, we've seen no evidence that it was.
Yeah, how much of that is related to the upcoming midterms and perhaps some concern from Trump about Democrats taking over Congress and any personal or familial risk that he will face, because there will be investigations not only of Trump, but his family and their business if Democrats win?
So strangely, Maggie and I found in our reporting for the book that it's not that Donald Trump doesn't care about the midterms. Of course he does, and you see that, evidenced by the fact that his team is trying to get every advantage they can, gerrymandering and what have you. But it's more driven by his team than it is by Donald Trump. And what you find if you talk to Trump advisors is often they're frustrated that he doesn't seem to care as much as they do about what happens in the midterm elections. And they would like him to be more alarmed and more exercised. This is very retrospective when it comes to 2020.
That is fascinating. So as you talk about the administration and Republicans gaining every advantage that they can, you mentioned efforts to gerrymander. He keeps pushing the Save America Act, even refusing to sign this housing bill, bipartisan housing bill that is seen as an achievement by this very divided Congress. He fired the board of the Election Assistance Commission, installed Pulte as DNI, which you mentioned. Do you see the administration planning to try to influence the way that elections are carried out in a way that is atypical of the federal government during the midterms?
Yeah, of course. I mean, blatantly, it's right in front of our faces. They're trying to squeeze out every single advantage they can, and to try to, remove as many pickup opportunities as they can for Democrats and make it harder to vote by mail and all the rest of it. What's interesting, though, is you talk to some of Trump advisors, they're not sure that some of these more restrictive voting efforts will actually benefit them politically. Remember, in 2024, a lot of their voters were people who don't normally vote.
Right.
And low propensity voters. So does making it more difficult to vote actually help Republicans? I'm not sure that's such a easily answered question.
Democrats have increasingly been sounding the alarm that they expect the president to influence this November's midterm elections. And last Thursday, the White House fired the leadership of the federal agency that provides funding and security guidance to election officials. That's according to sources familiar with the matter and an email reviewed by CNN. One of those former commissioners is with us now, Thomas Hicks, who served on the Election Assistance Commission and was fired from that position by President Trump. Thomas, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
First, on your firing, were you given a reason?
Not a reason at all. And as I've said to many people before, this actually happened on the 5th anniversary of my dad's passing.
Okay, so this has been incredibly personally traumatic for you. This has been very alarming for a lot of people who are watching this happen. What does it mean to not have this commission in place going into this election?
We don't run elections. So I want to assure the American people that they can still go out, cast their votes, and if they want to vote by mail, the Supreme Court reaffirmed that 2 weeks ago. What it does mean is that moving forward, We're going to not be able to adjust the voluntary voting system guidelines that the states have, that they go for voting machines in terms of certification and other aspects of it. We can't have meetings to talk about these issues, so that if there are issues that come out in November, there's no one to talk about these issues. And there's other aspects as well. So if this had happened in Russia, Cuba, there would be an alarm being set. But it's happening in America, and there should be more people outraged.
You said you have not had one contact with the Trump administration since they came back into office.
Correct.
Is that atypical? What would the contact normally be like with an administration?
Well, I've been here since Obama's administration, so they would call and tell us what they feel what we should be doing. And we would either take that or not take that because we were an independent agency. And so we did that with the Obama administration. The first Trump administration contacted us. The Biden administration contacted us. And then this current administration has not. They might have contacted my Republican colleagues, but not me.
The commission certainly was a target of the president's, right? From the very first executive order, it directed the EAC to add a proof of citizenship requirement to federal forms for voter registration, while ordering the commission to pressure states to adopt Election Day mail ballot deadlines. It was largely blocked by courts. However, obviously, you were a bit of a target there. I wonder, as the Supreme Court recently issued a decision that bolstered the president's power to fire leaders of independent agencies, if you thought this was coming.
Well, it was always a thing that could happen. But my thing is, we're all going to pass away at some point. I'm going to do my job the best that I can, whether or not that I had gotten fired or not. So I'm just going to figure out my next steps and take in all sort of options and see where I go. But again, it's not about me. It's about the American people being able to cast their votes.
Yeah.
I was just one person there.
For you, it is about you. I mean, you're in the middle of that. But for a lot of people, it's about what it means for this whole commission to be gone. And it's not just the commission, right? CISA, which is the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is always, it's been so crucial in the past. It's been gutted by the Trump administration. And I wonder how you look at the commission plus that and even other changes altogether. How are you seeing the effect of that?
Well, I was surprised about CISA because the Trump administration formed that agency back in, I think it was 2018 or 2019. So that was really surprising to me. The U.S. Election Assistance Commission did a lot during the COVID-19 crisis in terms of getting agencies together to talk about how to ensure that people could still vote independently and privately and safely. So with CISA being gone, with DHS being gone, the EAC was stepping up to actually have briefings for election officials, talking to other federal partners, and helping to ensure that this election runs smoothly in November and during the primaries, which we're in the middle of right now.